Ventura accuses Jesse the Body of the greatest betrayal.
Last time you spoke to Hulk Hogan.
Accused Bret the Hitman Hart of sabotaging his career. It's unbelievable that Hulk Hogan would harm me in this way. Fans may view Hulk Hogan as a legend, but many other wrestlers view him as the antagonist. These 10 WWE celebrities publicly hate him, and you might be surprised to learn why. Matt Bourne, the Clown Doink. Let's begin our list with Matt Bourne, the original Doink the Clown, a wrestler whose flamboyant persona concealed some very significant concerns with Hulk Hogan. Matt Bourne's problems with the Immortal Hulk Hogan went far beyond wrestling plots. Despite the fact that you may be wondering how a clown figure could be at odds with Hogan,
do not have any respect for him to this day. And I would like the guy, but I don't have any respect for him. You know, I believe he's not a real person. I think everything's a facade.
Bourne claimed he couldn't respect or look Hogan in the eye because of his hypocrisy and accused him of being fake and mistreating people. Backstage. Respect is crucial in the wrestling industry. And the harshest criticism you can receive is when a fellow wrestler says they couldn't even look at you because of your actions. According to Bourne, Hogan's backstage persona was so dissimilar from his public persona that it truly repulsed those who had to collaborate with him on a daily basis.
Give a about Hogan.
15 minutes on to
I didn't care, you know. I never put him over when he was around. I never even went out of my way to talk to him.
Hogan's public image as an all-American hero who advocated for training, prayers, and vitamins while supposedly acting in diametrically opposed ways behind the scenes was probably the source of the hypocrisy Bourne mentioned. This kind of hypocritical behavior would have been especially upsetting to someone like Matt Bourne, who took great satisfaction in being authentic even when portraying a clown. These critiques are even more credible because they were made by someone who had no intention of winning a big championship or engaging in main event feuds with Hogan. Jealousy over missed chances or untold tales didn't drive Bourne. His contempt sprang only from his observations of Hogan's personality and conduct as a fellow professional and human being, Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino, arguably the most reputable name in WWE history, comes in at number 9, the one that carried the organization for more than 10 years, winning the WWE Championship twice in a span of more than 11 years. Sammartino accused Hogan of ego-driven politics and didn't like how his cartoonish style overshadowed traditional wrestling. Until Hogan's time was out, Sammartino declined to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Everything Sammartino believed was wrong with the company's agenda was embodied by Hogan's Hollywood persona and entertainment-focused strategy when he first appeared.
This is the same guy who says that he took wrestling out of the smoke-filled little back alley, whatever he called it, to mainstream. You know, before this idiot, and I'll call him an idiot, came into the scene, there was an Argentino Rocca who was wrestling in Madison Square Garden and all the other big arenas.
Sammartino's unwillingness to accept membership into the WWE Hall of Fame while Hogan was still heavily featured in the organization was the most revealing sign of his animosity for Hogan. Take a moment to consider that. The guy who arguably helped shape WWE into what it is today, Bruno Sammartino, declined the organization's highest accolade because he couldn't bear to be linked to what Hogan stood for. Bruno saw wrestling as more than just a kind of amusement. It was an actual sporting event that was worthy of being respected. In his time, wrestlers were supposed to be tough, respectable athletes who could manage themselves in any circumstance. Hogan deviated from those ideals with his extravagant character work and lack of in-ring skill, which Sam Martino found unacceptable.
Talk about the wonderful things he did to this business by being one of the wonderful steroid chemical robots that came to this business, which is an unfortunate and tragic thing because there've been a lot of deaths, drug-related.
However, Bruno and Hogan had more than just artistic disagreements. He was especially critical of Hogan's self-centered politics and the way the Hulkster leveraged his power to keep his job, possibly at the expense of more worthy talent. This critique was especially harsh because it came from someone who has willingly forfeited the WWE Championship several times in order to support up-and-coming stars. Sam Martino also had a distinct viewpoint on what it meant to be an American hero because of his immigrant upbringing. Bruno, who was born in Italy and raised in America, based his professional life on the principles of diligence, willpower, and true bravery. He perceived Hogan as someone who was acting rather than exhibiting those virtues. And he was extremely bothered by that basic inauthenticity. Bruno Sammartino was highly respected in the wrestling industry, thus his criticism of Hogan was especially noteworthy when the man who is regarded as the greatest WWE champion of all time declines to be in the same Hall of Fame as you. That gives a fairly good indication of your reputation and character among your peers. Randy Savage, one of the worst. Tales of friendship turning enmity in wrestling may be found at number 8. Macho Randy Man Savage. Savage blamed Hogan for going too far and held grudges over private matters regarding Miss Elizabeth. Savage publicly disparaged Hogan in raps and interviews prior to his death in 2011, despite their reconciliation.
My name is Terry Bollea, my real name is Randy Poffo, and he disrespected me and my family through the media.
For decades, wrestling rumors have centered on the personal problems with Miss Elizabeth that caused Savage and Hogan to become estranged. The idea that Hogan went too far with Savage's real-life wife and on-screen manager set off a chain of events that would define both men's subsequent careers, even though the specifics have never been substantiated.
Here's the situation with me and Hulk Hogan. It's just, we've been acquaintances at best, never been best friends, never been friends.
The tragic aspect of the Savage-Hogan relationship was how their late 1980s professional success concealed their escalating personal conflicts. They were one of WWE's most popular storylines as the Mega Powers. However, behind the scenes, their friendship was failing because of problems that were entirely related to personal disputes in real life and had nothing to do with wrestling plots.
You see what I'm saying? He goes on the airwaves and he disrespects me. He gives me a shot over the radio, gives me a shot over the TV, he gives me a shot over the internet, here and there, but nothing face to face.
Their tale is further complicated by the reconciliation that took place prior to Savage's passing in 2011. Hogan expressed sincere sadness and emotion in his induction speech for Savage into the WWE Hall of Fame following his passing, implying that despite whatever had caused their breakup, both men eventually wished to mend their friendship. However, their years of animosity and bitterness had taken their toll. Savage's problems with Hogan were a contributing factor in his years-long unwillingness to cooperate with WWE, and their failure to settle their disputes amicably cost both men money and prospects. Their narrative serves as a warning about how egos, money, and personal problems may clash in the wrestling industry and ruin even the best friendships. CM Punk. CM Punk comes in at number 7, the vocal straight-edge superstar who never held back when voicing his thoughts regarding the biggest names in wrestling. In his 2011 pipe bomb promo, Punk made fun of Hogan and labeled him a piece of garbage in interviews. After meeting him and hearing about his misdeeds, Punk's hate for him increased.
Put Hulk Hogan in the Royal Rumble. I'll throw his dust over the top rope, and I'll kill Hulkamania once and for all.
Hogan was disparaged in Punk's well-known pipe bomb advertisement from 2011. which used the Hulkster as a symbol of all the issues with WWE's corporate culture and star-making procedure. It wasn't only a staged shoot. Punk was voicing sincere dissatisfaction with the way WWE functioned and the treatment of legends like Hogan, in contrast to the wrestlers who were actually performing the labor today.
You're as good as kissing Vince's Hulk Hogan was.
The fact that Punk's critique came from someone who had no personal connection to Hogan during his heyday made it very harmful. After meeting Hogan and hearing about his scandals, Punk's distaste only rose, indicating that his unfavorable assessment was founded only on Hogan's actions and reputation rather than any personal grievances or work-related disputes. He was also philosophically at odds with Hogan's wrestling industry because of Punk's straight-edge lifestyle. Punk, who took great satisfaction in being wholly honest and genuine, was understandably repulsed by what he perceived to be Hogan's deceit and manipulation. The difference between Hogan's subsequent acknowledged usage of steroids and Punk's morally upright position on drugs and drink would have been especially drawn to someone who shares Punk's moral beliefs. Some of Hogan's most significant problems, such as the racism controversy, also occurred at the same time as Punk's most scathing attacks on him. Hogan's exposed views would have been totally unacceptable to someone like Punk, who had always presented himself as progressive and socially sensitive. Punk's comments gained more legitimacy because he was the main eventer of WrestleMania and the owner of the WWE Championship for more than 400 days. This wasn't from someone who was upset that they didn't make it to the top. It came from someone who has won the greatest accolades in wrestling and still thought Hogan's actions were inappropriate. Scott Steiner, the genetically talented superstar whose animosity for Hulk Hogan was as explosive as his attitude, comes in at number 6. Hogan's induction of Randy Savage, who Steiner said detested Hogan, and threats at the airport were among the reasons Steiner called Hogan a racist and a piece of him. This was heightened by their WCW background. Scott Steiner's hatred for Hulk Hogan stemmed from their years of collaboration in WCW and his personal observations of Hogan's inner workings. Steiner, who was never one to hold back or speak his thoughts, became one of Hogan's most outspoken and tenacious detractors, offering harsh evaluations that made it clear how he felt.
Beat my first, match after turning heel. The call was made by Hulk Hogan to have me.
Steiner wasn't merely using derogatory language when he called Hogan a racist and a piece. Someone who had collaborated closely with Hogan during some of the most prosperous and contentious times in both of their careers made these grave charges. Steiner's criticism was especially intriguing because he brought up Randy Savage's opinions regarding Hogan. According to Steiner, Savage detested Hogan, and since the two were friends, Steiner would have known the truth about their relationship. Because Steiner was drawing from both his personal experience and what he had learned from other wrestlers who had collaborated with Hogan, this gave his attacks even more legitimacy. His personal difficulties attempting to get to the top of the card in WCW were also mirrored in the Big Bad Booty Daddy's critique. As someone with genuine amateur wrestling credentials and amazing physical prowess, Steiner would have been especially irritated by what he perceived as Hogan's unfair dominance of the promotion, even as he continued to retain his stranglehold on the main event scene. The fact that Steiner was still eager to attack Hogan years after their time in WCW ended demonstrated that this was more than simply a case of professional annoyance. Based on what he had seen and experienced, it was a sincere personal dislike. He showed that these sentiments hadn't changed over time by continuing to criticize Hogan in interviews and video shoots.
When another wrestler decides he's going to decide who wins is both.
Why do you think he did that?
He's a There's no other way he can say it. He's a piece of shit.
He is a fragment of given the subsequent disclosure of Hogan's racist remarks in the 2015 recording scandal, Steiner's racist charges against him also turned out to be significant. In retrospect, this made Steiner's prior criticism look even more plausible by implying that he might have known about Hogan's views long before they were made public. Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik, whose uncensored social media presence made his loathing of Hulk Hogan legendary, comes in at number 5. As a result of their 1980 feud and in-person conflicts, Sheik regularly criticized Hulk Hogan on Twitter for his racism and narcissism. Until his passing, Sheik's contempt was widely known.
I don't like Hulk Hogan himself.
The social media portion of Iron Sheik's animosity toward Hogan was especially hilarious because it demonstrated how wrestling's old school grudges had evolved to accommodate contemporary technologies. Instead of settling their disputes in the ring or behind closed doors, Sheik used Twitter to make frequent attacks on Hogan, providing a running commentary on their decades-long feud. The Iron Sheik's criticism was particularly genuine because he maintained it for a long period of time. This was neither a one-time dispute or a media stunt. It was a persistent, sincere show of disdain that lasted until Sheik's death. Iron Sheik's racist claims against Hogan were especially noteworthy given his own background as an Iranian-American wrestler who was frequently depicted as a foreign heel. His perspective on racism in wrestling came from someone who had seen it from the opposite side, giving his claims more credibility. Iron Sheik's enmity also echoed the complicated relationships that existed during wrestling's territorial era, when wrestlers were frequently forced to work together professionally while holding true personal antipathy. The fact that their feud lasted long after both men's active wrestling careers had ended demonstrated how deep their conflicts were. Jesse Ventura. Jesse the Body Ventura ranks 4th, citing his disdain for Hulk Hogan as the ultimate betrayal of wrestler camaraderie. Ventura accused Hogan of leaking information to Vince McMahon about his 1986 unionization efforts, resulting in threats of firings. Ventura described Hogan as a backstabber and narcissist in interviews and in his book.
You and Hulk were once good friends.
Yeah,
What's the likelihood of that ever being repaired?
never.
What?
Can't trust him. I'm not friends with anyone I don't trust. I have to have a trust with someone to be their friend. And he's the one that ratted me to Vince when I tried to unionize.
Ventura's single quote says, 1986 unionization campaign had the potential to dramatically revolutionize the wrestling industry, giving wrestlers with healthcare, retirement benefits, and basic workplace rights that they still lack today. Ventura rallied the locker room prior to WrestleMania 2, but Hogan reportedly alerted McMahon, who threatened firings. This betrayal was not merely a personal slight. It was an action that might cost each wrestler in the company millions of dollars in benefits and protections over the next several decades. Years later, during Ventura's 1991 royalty case against McMahon, Hogan's role in obstructing the union attempt was revealed through testimony. This meant Ventura had to deal with the ramifications of the unsuccessful unionization for years before, determining who was to blame, and I showed no emotion.
Because he was my friend. And I thought, but then I understand why. When we went to court, I saw in WrestleMania 3, Hogan got paid more than all of us combined. Now, why would he want a union when he's getting taken care of?
What made Hogan's treachery stand out was the motivation behind it. Ventura pointed out that Hogan prioritized his big compensation over the whole WrestleMania 3 lineup, including his colleagues. While other wrestlers struggled without basic benefits, Hogan earned more than the entire roster and aggressively worked to keep his colleagues from better their conditions. Venture's background made the betrayal more personal. Venture, who had served in the military before entering politics, knew the value of group action and solidarity. His experience with the Screen Actors Guild from his role in Predator taught him how unions might defend performers, making Hogan's sabotage all the more upsetting. The long-term consequences of Hogan's conduct cannot be emphasized. Wrestling is still non-unionized to this day, with sources identifying this occurrence as a primary reason. Every wrestler who has suffered from a lack of health care, every performer who has battled in retirement without a pension, and every talent who has been used by promoters may trace some of their troubles back to this point.
You start working with WWE again. Would you consider burying the hatchet with Hulk Hogan?
No,
Conversation, at least?
I don't know.
When was the last time you spoke to Hulk Hogan?
I don't know. He betrayed me.
The fact that Ventura never reconciled with Hogan, recently criticizing him for his Trump rally appearances, demonstrates that this was not a one-time issue. Ventura's sustained criticism decades later shows that he saw Hogan's treachery as unforgivable. The Undertaker is ranked third. Whose revelation regarding Hulk Hogan's deception sent shockwaves through the wrestling community. Undertaker said that Hogan lied about a neck injury from a tombstone piledriver in 1991 to avoid jobbing, calling it a transgression that harmed trust. He addressed this in recent podcasts, emphasizing Hogan's self-preservation.
I didn't know that I was going to drop the belt back and what was going on. I mean, that came up out of nowhere. But I kind of figured like, oh, okay, maybe it's because he's telling everybody that I hurt him, Hulk was still the golden goose at the time.
The Undertaker's revelation about Hulk Hogan's deception is one of the most damning accusations ever leveled against the Hulkster, especially given that it came from one of wrestling's most revered personalities. When The Undertaker talks, the entire wrestling world listens. And his portrayal of Hogan's dishonesty had a huge impact on the industry. The incident on Tuesday in Texas in 1991 featuring the tombstone piledriver was meant to be a common occurrence. In their match, according to The Undertaker, Hogan lied about having a neck ailment to avoid executing the job, using a fake condition as a pretext to safeguard his character's title status. What made this betrayal more painful for The Undertaker was that it happened early in his WWE career, when he was still establishing himself as a major event star. Having the company's top star lie about an injury sustained during his finishing move might have badly harmed The Undertaker's credibility and potentially halted his rise to the top of the card.
Terry, I watched it back. Your head never hit. He was like, well, brother, what it was you had me so tight that when we came down, I had nowhere to move. And that's what jammed my neck, because I couldn't move at all.
You're too tight.
2. You are too tight. The Undertaker felt betrayed since Hogan subsequently revealed it was to safeguard his position among rising talents such as The Rock. This revelation demonstrated that Hogan's lie was not motivated by genuine concern for his safety or health. It was purely a political play to keep his position at the top of the corporation. What made Hogan's deceit especially heinous was how it may harm The Undertaker's reputation as a safe worker. In professional wrestling, being recognized as someone who injures opponents may ruin your career, and Hogan's fake injury claim could have badly damaged The Undertaker's standing with management and other wrestlers. The discovery also underscored Hogan's self-preservation impulses, which frequently came at the expense of his colleagues' jobs and reputation. While Hogan was defending his own character and storylines, he was potentially harming other wrestlers' careers and inciting unnecessary controversy and disagreement behind the scenes. Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is ranked second, and his 2005 rivalry with Hulk Hogan went down in history for all the wrong reasons. During their 2005 feud, Michaels insulted Hogan by overselling moves in protest of Hogan's refusal to compete. In a multi-match series where he would lose more than once, Michaels has suggested that Hogan's ego made working with him tough.
On camera, brother, I'm a great guy. But when that camera goes off, brother,
It's a different story, brother. Oh, brother.
What was meant to be a fantasy match between two of wrestling's brightest talents turned into a masterclass in expressing personal enmity and professional anger through in-ring performance. Michaels desired a multi-match series, but Hogan reportedly refused to lose more than once, which resulted in one of the most hilarious exhibitions of professional pettiness in wrestling history. Rather than merely going through the motions, Michael decided to express his dissatisfaction through his performance, exaggerating Hogan's offense to nearly comedic proportions.
Tell you something, brother. This is a dream match, brother. One that I've always dreamed of, brother. But I got news for you. I'll be 102 years old, brother, by the time I step into the ring at SummerSlam. Every day the Hulkster wakes up that he's not dead, brother. He's living up on his top.
Michael's overselling was more than just unprofessional behavior. It was a calculated artistic statement about his opinion of Hogan's wrestling ability and personality. Every exaggerated bump and emotional reaction was Michael's way of telling Hogan that if he wanted to be recognized as a true main event wrestler, he had to act like it. Michaels found the situation particularly aggravating because he was at a time in his career where he was promoting younger talent and working to raise the next generation of stars. Hogan's refusal to do the same, despite being well past his prime, exemplified everything Michaels saw as wrong with wrestling's old guard. The backstage conflict between Michaels and Hogan echoed bigger concerns within WWE at the time, as the corporation attempted to strike a balance between reverence for its icons and the need to generate new stars. Hogan's refusal to put over current talent demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of his role as a returning legend. Bret Hart. At number 1, we have Bret the Hitman Hart, whose exhaustive and brutal condemnation of Hulk Hogan is maybe the most thorough attack of the Hulkster ever delivered by a fellow wrestler. Hart has consistently labeled Hogan a phony, accused him of undermining his career, including refusing to return the WWF belt to him after WrestleMania 9. In his autobiography and interviews, Hart claimed that Hogan didn't know a headlock from a headlight and nursed grudges against poor WCW booking influenced by him dying.
He was a guy that thought he was everything in wrestling and that everyone else was... We were all backup players to Hulk Hogan, and that's the way he saw it. And once that belt was on me, I became the enemy or somebody that had to be removed.
Bret Hart's loathing for Hulk Hogan is possibly the most documented and extensive critique of the Hulkster ever leveled by a fellow wrestler. Hart's attacks were not simply emotional outbursts or fleeting frustrations. They calculated thorough indictments based on years of professional experience and personal observation. Hart regularly refers to the WrestleMania 9 incident as an example of everything he saw as wrong with Hogan's attitude to the wrestling business. After working a hard match against Yokozuna, Hart lost the WWE Championship. Hogan allegedly persuaded Vince McMahon to alter the scheduled finale, bringing himself into the main event and winning the title in a matter of minutes. This wasn't simply about Hart losing a championship. It was about Hogan's blatant contempt for storytelling, logic, and fairness. Hart claimed Hogan agreed to drop the belt to him later, but reneged, utilizing his backstage influence to avoid putting Hart over while making Hart appear weak. Hart's renowned judgment that Hogan couldn't tell a headlock from a headlight became one of wrestling's most repeated complaints, neatly capturing Hart's belief that Hogan's wrestling ability was highly overvalued in comparison to his drawing, power, and political acumen. But Hart's critique went much beyond Hogan's in-ring ability. Hart accused Hogan of portraying him as a tag team wrestler in private conversations in an attempt to damage Hart's reputation as a singles contender. Despite Hart's apparent talent and achievements,
Pissed off. I'm so mad. I can't believe that Hulk Hogan would do this to me. Like, I was a guy that always thought of him as a friend and vice versa. And this, I know I worked really hard to finally climb up that ladder to get to that spot. I worked so hard. And here he was, we're stopping
single quotes as personal assaults. Hogan showed his genuine hurt and frustration with what he perceived to be planned career sabotage, coming from someone with Hart's reputation for professionalism and technical proficiency. These accusations weighed heavily in the wrestling profession. Hart's problems with Hogan continued throughout their WCW days, when Hogan's influence resulted in Hart's bad booking. This demonstrated that Hart's issues with Hogan were not simply about isolated occurrences, but about a pattern of behavior that persisted over multiple promotions over decades. The fact that Hart continued to criticize Hogan years after both men's active careers had finished proved that these weren't just professional differences, but true personal hatred based on what Hart perceived as basic defects in Hogan's personality and business style. And with that, we've completed this deep dive. For more tasty content like this, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and look at the card on your screen for more videos. Don't forget to share your thoughts here.